All right, you ready for this one? Facebook, one of the biggest, most powerful companies on planet Earth, says it will begin taking down some misinformation that it spread with the intent to encourage violence. This is, quote, largely a response to episodes in Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and India in which rumors that spread on Facebook led to real-world attacks on ethnic minorities. But the social media giant will not remove false stories if they do not contribute to actual violence or physical harm. How do you prove that? In an interview with Recode, CEO Mark Zuckerberg gave an example using Holocaust deniers. Please listen.
I'm Jewish, and there's a set of people who deny that the Holocaust happened,
yes,
right? I find that deeply offensive. But at the end of the day, I don't believe that our platform should take that down, because I think that there are things that different people get wrong. I don't think that they're intentionally getting it wrong.
Oh, my goodness. Ben White and Mike Lupica are back with me. Okay, gentlemen. Mark Zuckerberg later clarified this in an email. I'm not sure if it was clarified, where he writes, I absolutely didn't intend to defend the intent of people who deny that. Our goal with fake news is not to prevent anyone from saying something untrue, but to stop fake news and misinformation spreading across our services. Huh?
Where did he go to the Donald Trump school of walking back mistakes? You talk about this all the time. The idea that this guy isn't a public figure and that he just got tripped up here, he doesn't know when to shut up. And all you got to do is get this guy talking. And he later said in the same interview, I also get things wrong when I speak publicly. Gee, Mark, you think?
Gee, Mark, you think, and when you get things wrong and you have a public platform like that, action has to be taken. You can no longer make the argument, he's shy, he's not a public speaker. Then why did you decide to take your company public and grow it to this gargantuan size of a beast that clearly you cannot control?
Yeah, this is one of the most powerful companies in media, shaping social interaction around the world, and the lack of taking responsibility for that is shocking. And the idea that he would defend Holocaust denial is not fake news. The Holocaust happened. All these people were killed. This is fake news. Take it down. The big problem with Facebook is it is a media company. It should take responsibility as a media company to publish things only that are true and factual to the best of their ability, and not say abdicate responsibility and say, oh, we don't know, we don't control this.
They continue to deny the fact that they are a media company. And when Mark Zuckerberg went and testified, you might as well have had my children asking him questions, or Louise Rule, who likes to call it the Facebook. When you think about when companies like NBC, a media company, lose advertising dollars, we're not losing them to another TV network. We're losing them to Facebook. Exactly. They are our competition for advertising. Yeah. That's what makes all of these companies make money. So how can Mark Zuckerberg possibly continue to put this forward like we're not a media company? Please.
Stephanie, in what boneheaded, cockeyed moment did he think that Holocaust survivors was a frame of reference in the conversation? He could have, Ben, he could have had 100 other references in that moment, and he picked the dumbest one he could pick. And does he think he can soften it by saying, well, I am Jewish?
Yeah, right. Okay, I'm Jewish, but therefore I can say this, that Holocaust denial is okay.
When President Trump says, how can I possibly support anti-Semites? Right. My son-in-law is Jewish. It's nonsense. I want to share the case he made for why content should be flagged as hoaxes from InfoWars, for example. InfoWars, he said, would not be removed from Facebook, and here's why.
We send those to fact checkers who are all well reputable and have followed standard principles for fact checking. And if those fact checkers say that it is provably false, then we will significantly reduce the distribution of that content. And if someone
you move them down the line rather than get rid of them
in newsfeed.
Why don't you want to just say get off our platform?
Well, look, as abhorrent as some of this content can be, I do think that it gets down to this principle of giving people a voice.
Hold on a second. There is a difference in content from conspiracy sites like InfoWars and, let's say, a Democratic or Republican site that have a political agenda.
Yes, this is absolute cowardice on his part. InfoWars says that Sandy Hook didn't happen, that there was a rapist pizza ring in Washington, D.C. These are fake news stories that are influencing people, and he is refusing to take responsibility for that. Really, you won't take that down when it's proved to be false by these fact checkers? You'll just lower it in people's news feeds? One of the most absurd, ridiculous, and cowardly things I've ever heard.
Okay, but then here's the thing. Mark Zuckerberg just doesn't have to do interviews anymore. I'm guessing he's not going to do one anytime soon. We can sit here all day long and say, Mark, how are you and Cheryl going to tackle this? But do they actually have to? It doesn't look like the government is taking major action. And if you look at the lobbying dollars out of companies like Facebook, I'm pretty sure no government officials are going to force their hand anytime soon.
Here's a good rule of the road. If you're in 2 straight news cycles with Holocaust survivors in the headlines, and you have to send an email to correct something you said originally about Holocaust survivors, don't do any interviews for a while, because can you imagine what his handlers were doing as they were listening to the feed of this and thinking, oh, good one, boss. Why didn't we think of that?
Then, from a Facebook perspective, we know that President Trump has already said this week, well, meddling, we don't see it as a continued threat, though Christopher Wray and Dan Coates have said otherwise. From a social media perspective, we have midterms coming up. We know the impact misinformation had using vehicles like Facebook. Can we expect a repeat, or do you see any sign that Facebook is actually doing something real time to change the outcome?
Well, I think they say they're trying to. They're trying to identify what's fake, what's coming from non-U.S. actors trying to influence us. But I don't see any reason to believe that we won't see more fake news used to manipulate people, used to manipulate voters that could have an impact on the midterms and then the 2020 election cycle.
All we're looking forward to is months of thinking that what about the server ought to be a drinking game.
Ought to be a drinking game. But Mark Zuckerberg, he sat on that cushion and leaned forward as though he was very serious about doing it when speaking to Congress.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.